Hi there, welcome back to my channel, and for today's Scrappy project we will need some scraps. Right now here I have very nicely organized box full of scraps from different projects, different colors, different styles. They are just stripes of fabrics that are smaller than 2.5 inches up to down to 1 inch, because that's the thinnest usable. Actually, I think this one is a bit thinner, but let's check it. So yeah, this one is about 3/4, which would leave us about half an quarter of an inch out, and that's really the smallest you need. So we need scraps. Strips are very good. Then, as the basic, because we will be working on paper, what I have here is a roll of paper that is used in cash registers to print out your bills in different shops. And I think in this case I actually bought it online. You can buy them without any problems, and they are perfect because they come already with a nice width. This one particular, it's 3 1/8 of an inch wide, and because of taking into account how many seams we will have here, that will give us at the end 2.5 inch of scrappy unit. And what we need are scissors. That's it. No cutting, just box of your scraps, some of this paper, and scissors. That's everything what we need. So let's see what we can do out of it. Before we start sewing, I already installed my narrow foot into my machine, but it is very useful if you reduce your stitch to about 1.5 to 1.8 length. It will help us later on to get rid of the paper. When we will be sewing, let us start with something a little bit longer and wider. So for example, like this piece. So we are putting it with overhang. So we want to have some length. Probably it would be good if we will cut it to about 5 inches, maybe 4.5 inches length. So we have something hanging outside of our strip. In this way we can trim it to the desired width. And what we can do then is simply put it on top and sew with about 1/4 seam allowance. The importance is, it is important to keep your stitches really short. Why it is important? Because in this way we can tear the paper away much better without ripping the stitches off. That's like the iron rule of stitching on paper. So that would be the step number 1, sewing it together. Now step number 2 is to open your, and either use your nail to open it or use the seam roller. I find it really useful tool, but that's an optional tool. And we are just adding strips of fabric doesn't have to be equal width. In this way we will have even more variety. And open and press the seam with a nail. You can, if you are very precise, you can, every time you do your stitch, you can use this is perfect. We do not have to even cut it. You can use simply an iron. You can iron it, but in this way you would have to have your ironing station directly next to you. And having a machine with automatic cutter thread cutter is very, very useful. So again, pressing the seam, and in this way we can keep adding whatever scraps we have in our collection. Different widths, different colors. I'm even not checking if the colors will be matching, because at the end it will all look good. The only rule is that you don't want to have the same scrap of fabric next to each other. So I will keep the strips and the colors I already used in a separate pile, and I will just keep adding new colors till I accumulated enough so I can start using those that I already used previously. I want it to be scrappy. Of course you can do controlled scrapping, and you can just use one color and different shades, and probably sooner or later we will also make such project on this channel as well. But right now I just want to use some of my scraps, also very light in color, because I accumulated a lot of scraps and I would like to reduce the amount of boxes I collected. For the ease of sewing, I cut my paper strip to about 20 inches because that will be sufficient, but of course you can just somehow fix your roll and you do not have to cut it at all. Just use it as it comes and then cut the length you need as you will be using it. Such scrappy projects are perfect because they do not demand too much thought on our side. So here I made, for example, a little bit mistake, so I didn't pull it enough, and so let me actually, in this case, because otherwise I will have not straight. So the only this project is very easy to do, but the only thing you have to pay attention to is that your fabric is stretched, that it's pushed away from the other one, that we are not creating any folds. That's why ironing from time to time is actually very useful. In this case, I'm using fabric that was ironed, so it makes it easier. But for example, here I have a fold, so I will have to pay attention that it's not scooching here. And let's add some gray. So as you can see already here, I have quite a decent piece done. That's almost 10 inches. And it goes very fast, and I have a wide variety of colors and widths, so very dynamic. I can add something with some pattern, tiny flowers. Let's do that. So, and like that, we will keep adding till we have sufficient length for a nice project. And I have one project in mind. Let me just check what's the... don't know, it's a very long strip. What I have here, it was left over from a backing, so it's left over from backing of a quilt. So it means it's very long, it's 2 meters long. And I don't want to pull this whole strip there. So I would like to use this project to create a nice table runner. That means I would use the whole length of 20 inches. And I would create several of those. And so let me continue, because now you are getting the principle of it. And I will get back to you when I am done with the strip units, and then I will tell you what other supplies do we need to finish the top from our scraps or the fabric that we have already in our stash. I finished my Scrappy units sewn on the paper tape, and that's how it looks like when it's cut and organized. So if you take a look closer, you will see the edges now are very nice and equal, and I cut them 1/4 inch away from the paper, simply so I can first sew it with the other fabric, and then we can pull the paper away. It is simply for better stability. So I made 3 of those using different fabrics, different scraps. Some of them were a little bit larger, like 4x5 rectangles. All of them I simply found in my box with scraps. So I have 3 of those. They have slightly different length, but that doesn't matter. And I will sew them together with strips of fabric, background fabric. And again, I found it in my leftover drawer, and I had some units left from another project. I like to use cream colors a lot, so I had here a 3. I have 2 strips with 4 inch width, one with 3.5, and one with 2.5. So let's put it together in a way that the narrower strips will be in the middle, in between, and the 2 4-inch strips will be on the outside. Probably it will be not a table topper, it's only something else, but it doesn't matter as long as we are using our strips in a nice fashion, so that the material is usable. So I know these two sides are not the same. I have to check which one is that's the right side. And I will not really match the lengths for now, so they don't have to be that equal. I will cut them to size later on. And again, I'm using my 1/4 inch foot, and I will just join those two pieces together, and you can see that I am sewing directly next to the paper. It's actually better to leave the paper on, because in this way the strip is not distorted before we sew. So that was the strip number 1. We will, because we have lots of seams here, we will press everything towards the background, and you can already see that this starts looking very, very nice. I will now put the other units together, and I will show you the finished top of my patchwork in a moment. Here in this one place you can see that I didn't have enough fabric, and it's a little bit less than 1/4 inch of seam allowance. However, because I am sewing before I rip the paper and it's only this one place, it's not a big problem. I will have enough to catch it, and then I will be very gentle removing paper in this one location, so this seam will be still stable. And after that I will be quilting this element anyway, so I will add extra stability to the quilt, so the seam will have no right to fall apart. And now you can already see the charm of having such a project. The background helps to frame all the nice colors that we have used here, and it will look really, really nice and definitely unique due to the random selection of all our stripes. So you can be sure nobody else will have this kind of quilt. So I will keep adding the elements, and I will show you in the last section how I am removing the paper pieces. I have sewn the last pieces together, and the camera is still in zoom, so right now you cannot see it's all finished, not yet finished, but you cannot see yet the full potential, but believe me, it is there. But now what I wanted to show you before I will cut it to size and show you the whole project is how I am going on with removing the paper. I mentioned to you that I was actually using extremely short stitch length of about 1.5, and everything now I have to do is just rip the paper off, and then I can use my seam ripper to lift the other paper, bend it a little bit. I can use my nail to weaken the paper even more, and then like that I can remove all the paper from the unit. My seams are very dense, so I am not weakening them like that, and the paper is densely perforated, so it rips off quite easily. If you do not have such a tape, you can use copy paper. There is one that is not so thick, and so it's a paper you're putting to your printer, but use the one with the low weight per square centimeter. And with the simply, it's very thin paper, and it's much easier to use for this kind of paper piecing projects. This is simply very nice because we can be very flexible about the length of the our strip unit. So it's a nice way to get rid of at least of some of the scraps that we accumulate during our creative life. So there is a little bit left. If something is left, it's not a big problem. And I don't think I will be washing this one very often, but if that would be an element of a everyday quilt, that the piece of paper that it's stuck there wouldn't be a problem at all. I think I ripped some seams here, so I will have to be careful when I am quilting them. So in this way that they are staying in place. So it still happens despite the fact I'm trying to be very careful. Maybe I shouldn't use the ripper. So as you can see, I'm also learning. So I will keep going. I will cut it to size and think if I still need to add extra borders from my background fabric, and then it will be done, at least before it is quilted. And quilting will be done separately, but I can send you the link to the separate video. I have a separate video which is called channel, which is dedicated only to quilting, and there I am known as a quilting nerd. So, see you in a moment. This is how this project looks like when it's done, almost done. And you can see here also detailed quilting I've done, and I will link my other, I will link a video from my other channel if you are interested in details on the quilting process.